Hey, it's Bob at Red Hill Tactical. Over the last month, I've exchanged a lot of emails, Facebook posts, Facebook messages in regards to various thumb rests, especially as they apply to 2011 firearms, now that limited optics has become a thing. As many of you know and have brought up, we used to offer the Shooting Sports Innovation, and you've wondered why we've stopped. So I'm going to kind of walk you guys through the step-by-step process of thumb rests, where we were, where we are, some things that are going to be positive that will come down the pike that will be, in the long run, a benefit to anyone looking for thumb rests. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is a comparison of two holsters. So these holsters both are for 2011 firearms. They are both, was built for an Atlas Nemesis. This was built for an Atlas Titan. So they're both basically the same gun. One's 5.5, one's 5 inch. So what I want you to look at is the difference in the width of the opening needed to fit the thumb rest. Now, the camo one is actually built for the Atlas thumb rest, okay? So the Atlas thumb rest we have started offering again. We believe that it's a size that we can accommodate. As you can see, there is some stretch, but there's not a lot. So my debate becomes this. When I look at this holster, because I'm kicking it out here an extra 1/2 inch, what happens is I'm actually putting a lot of stress right here in this part of the kydex. By placing that stress, we found that over time these holsters will eventually crack sooner than the ones that don't. This is a high stress area because there's a lot of weight here, and as you can see, the more I push, the more I pull, that becomes a flex point and will crack. So with that, we do offer the Atlas thumb rest. The Atlas is not too terribly large. It sticks out about 1/2 inch past where we would normally block. So with minimal amount of effort, we can make the Atlas thumb rest fit the 2011s. Now, there are other brands out there we've not tested. This we've tested, we've figured out the measurements, we've got this one working. Okay, so let's move on. The next one is people have asked me about other thumb rests. So for the Shadow 2, SP101, and other CZ-based 75 guns, EMONTech makes a thumb rest that is, as you can see, is under 1/2 inch. It fits very, very nicely in our holsters. We can mold it fairly easily. It makes a nice holster, okay? Again, there's numerous other ones out there. We may not have them all. We may not have seen them all. I welcome anybody to send me a thumb rest at once. I will certainly take a look at it and give some opinions on it. With the EMON, the other company we work with a lot that has sent us a lot of their thumb rests, as you can see, is Align. The Align Tactical, again, it's under 1/2 inch, really easy to fit. We can fit this into most of our holsters now. We are going to be offering this in the competition and the 3-gun. It's fairly easy to fit. The only thing I'm going to point out with the 3-gun as we start transitioning to offering these is you will lose some of your retention on your trigger guard because we're going to have to add some extra spacing. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right, the next one we want to talk about is the one that kind of started this whole trend. This is the original, the Go Gun gas pedal. When you refer to gas pedal in this environment, gas pedal is copyrighted and trademarked. So when we refer to that, we are speaking specifically of the Go Gun part. Again, less than 1/2 inch push out, easy to build. This will be available in many of our holsters. So then, as you guys started talking to me, and I'm bringing up all of these things, I had someone go, well, Bob, I want one in a level 2. So let's talk about a level 2. So this is our hood, okay? Our hood is only so long, right? It has a length that is set. So what happens is, as I have to start stretching this wider and wider, it starts to actually twist on itself and bind. So to get this to clear the thumb rests, I end up with a situation where the hood is bound and does not work properly. Now, the idea would be, one is we figure out a way to make a longer hood, maybe. The other option is something that we came across on accident. I had a customer begging me to make a holster for, so we reached out to the company, and this is the Odin Armory thumb rest. Okay, this is a huge thumb rest. I mean, I have big hands, and I am not covering, I'm covering the whole thing, but my palm's on it. I mean, it's a huge thumb rest. So Odin Armory, the guy talking to him seems to be a genius. and we're talking, and he says to me, he wants this to fit into a level 2. So I said, well, let's see what happens. So there you have the Odin Armory thumb rest that fits clean into a level 2 holster. Notice with the Odin Armory, I get my hood tight enough that I have a nice arc so that I have a nice action on it. The Odin Armory allows us to keep everything we need in line so that nothing's out of place. We're not stretching it so optics wouldn't clear. You notice there's still a nice size loop there that your optic can clear. So the Odin Armory does a lot of things that we needed to do, and when you draw, the thumb rest is right back out. So this is what we're going to be selling. We do have these coming in stock. This is currently one of the things that if you want a thumb rest on a level 2, this is what we're going to recommend for the time being. It works, it's sturdy, it's well built. So there's kind of the overall. So moral of the story, thumb rests are here to stay. We're trying to do what we can to solve problems. Now, the other piece of this that you guys said to me, I had a bunch of you guys go, well, Bob, just cut the stuff out of the way. So the problem with cutting things out of the way, you can see where the thumb rest sits. So I've got to now trim a line along the trigger guard around where that thumb rest sits. And I've got to move the blocking to attach it now below that thumb rest. So a couple things that are going to happen. One is I'm changing the balance point of the gun. So the balance point of the gun where I block is going to be a lot higher. Now, you might think, okay, not a big deal. But again, now I start adding more stress on the pivot point because it's moving. I start adding more stress because it's going to move a lot because the weight's up here. Because none of us are running 10-round mags. I mean, let's face it, we're all running 140 millimeter mags as we should be. So I'm going to add more stress. And then the other thing when I mount it this low is I create a weird problem with how my drop positions the gun, because I now have it sitting so low that the gun rides up higher, so I've got to use more of the drop and hopefully I have enough movement on it. The other piece of that is when I cut that out, I'm now going to lose almost any chance of getting retention on the trigger guard. So I'll have, we say we build for minimal retention already. As I cut this out, my retention is going to go down even further. So these are kind of my considerations as I move forward with developing products for thumb rests here at Red Hill Tactical. Like I said, I've got a lot of work in it. I've looked at a lot of rests. We have a lot here. I'm willing to look at anybody else who wants to send us them. I'm really willing to work with them to make sure we have a product that works. But that's also where it comes for you guys. If you see something and you're like, hey Bob, give this a try, you got to reach out. Otherwise, if it's something I don't have here on the table, we do offer one-off customs. Those one-off customs have a starting price based on the fact that I'm going to have to put my actual time, hand labor into making a holster fit. What happens with some of the larger thumb rests is I have actually spent upwards of 4 or 5 hours hand heating and hand forming a holster to fit some of the larger thumb rests. Now, you're thinking, well, okay, how big a thumb rest? Well, some of the ones out there now have gotten pretty good size, which is okay. But the last holster I made for it, there is no way that gun was within the maximum allowable limit for USPSA. So that's the other piece of this that's now coming into my head as I start looking at these and I start playing with some of them is, how do we keep it within the boundaries and the confines of the rules of USPSA? That's something that as you guys order these, you're going to have to keep in mind. I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but as you start approaching some of the bigger thumb rests, you're going to be outside of that realm of what is considered legal for USPSA. So there's kind of the outline of what we got. I hope that kind of walks you through where we are. Like I said, the Odin seems to be a solution for the guys who want a level 2. It seems to be a solution for the guys who want competition. The other side of this is, in some cases, the Odin may fit, we may even be able to develop it to fit a concealed carry holster. We're working on that piece next. We'll keep you guys in the loop, but here's a breakdown on thumb rests from Red Hill Tactical.